In the shadow of the Cold War, the United States made a decision that would change the world forever. One that would come back to haunt it decades later. December 1979, Soviet troops roll into Afghanistan, aiming to prop up a failing communist government. But for the United States, this wasn't just another invasion. It was an opportunity. The Cold War wasn't just fought with nukes and threats, it was fought in jungles, cities, and deserts. Afghanistan became one of its deadliest battlegrounds. Enter Operation Cyclone, a CIA program that would become one of the longest and most expensive covert operations in US history. Billions of dollars were funneled into arming and training Afghan rebels, known as the Mujahideen Freedom Fighters, as Reagan called them. But many of these fighters weren't just villagers with guns, they had their own ideologies, some extremist. The Mujahideen were portrayed as noble warriors battling Soviet oppression. But in reality, it was a chaotic mix: tribal leaders, warlords, Islamists, and yes, future terrorists. Among the foreign volunteers who flocked to Afghanistan was a young Saudi, Osama bin Laden, funded, armed, and inspired by the war. He would later form Al-Qaeda. The term blowback describes the unintended consequences of foreign interventions. And in this case, the blowback was catastrophic. The same fighters trained by the CIA would go on to fight against the West. Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and countless extremist groups trace their origins, or at least their strength, to the US-funded resistance. The Soviet Union eventually withdrew in 1989. It was called a victory for freedom. But for Afghanistan, it was just the beginning of decades of war. Civil war erupted. The Taliban rose. Al-Qaeda flourished. And 20 years of American war in Afghanistan followed, trying to undo what had once been set in motion. The Soviet-Afghan War was more than a Cold War battle. It was a spark that lit a global fire. History doesn't just repeat itself. Sometimes it explodes back. Like, comment, and subscribe for more untold stories of history, war, and consequences the world chose to ignore.